Today I will show you a sound design trick that I used to generate some of these groovy synth lines. But not only that, I also used it to make these bass lines. Yeah, see, this technique is very flexible. You can make so many different things with it. More than that, it's actually very fun to play with, you know? You can come up with something very groovy in literally just a couple of seconds. My name's Nick, and I strive to make music production fun and accessible for everyone by incorporating fart jokes into the curriculum. I am very mature. Let's do it. So, as with every good story, we're going to have to start with the sound. What kind of sound? Doesn't really matter. So, take a wild guess as to which sound I'm going to use today. I'm going to use a piano. So now that I have my sound in here, I'm going to add the Fracture VST on top of it. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention we're using this Fracture plugin today. It's free. I'm going to leave a link to it in the video description. But first, I need to explain to you how it works. Alright, you got me. I've no clue how it works. And I don't care, you know, it just makes some cool sounds. That's all that should really matter, right? So let's get to step one of the process. Generating a blob of sound. So on the Fracture plugin, turn the dry wet all the way up. And now we can start to mess around. Not yet, actually. We need to start recording it first. So to do that, just create a new audio track. Set it to get audio from our channel with the Fracture VST. Then arm the track down here with this button and press record. Now we can start to mess around. So I like to choose a random preset from here. Matrix Milk. That sounds fun. I don't know, let's choose this one. Oh, and we're gonna need to turn the dry wet back up to 100. And from here on, we start to mess around with the different knobs here. The ones that I find are the most fun to play with are the time knobs and the size knobs. And here. Okay, this preset is a bit weird, so maybe we could choose a different one. Now, you could realistically generate something very groovy in literally just a couple of seconds like this, but more often than not, it's probably gonna take more like a minute or two. That's interesting. Let's try a different preset. That's kind of cool. I hope you're starting to understand where the name came from. We're literally just generating a blob of sound. Like, we're kind of clueless right now as to where this is gonna go, but we're just having fun, really. What the fuck? Yeah, the more experimental you can get here, the better, honestly. So we've done this for a bit. I think that's enough. So now we have this huge blob of sound. Look at this. And notice that none of these sounds are actually quantized to the grid. This is because the Fracture VST works based on milliseconds and not the project tempo. And because of that, you will often get very experimental grooves that you wouldn't have come up with otherwise. Yeah, but this blob by itself isn't really that useful. So this is where we get to step 2 of the process. Now we're going to be sculpting the blob. In this step, you just go through the recording and find some cool sounding moments. So you want to zoom in and select a small snippet of the blob, then you press Ctrl L to loop it. And in this menu on the left here, now you can adjust the length of the loop. I find that it's usually best to stay in a 1-bar loop, or even better, a half-bar loop. So that's 8 steps, because that way it's much easier to find something catchy. And now just look for something cool. You can drag this marker around here. Okay, that's kind of cool. So now that we have found something half decent, now I can hold down Alt and drag it so that we make a copy of it for later. And now let's just keep looking for some more cool things. This could be a hook. That's cool. Let's copy it as well. That's kind of cool as well. I remember there being some cool moments towards the end of our recording session, so let's go here. Wow. I think you get it by now. Just collect as many slices of the blob as you want. I like to collect a lot of them so that I have a lot of ideas to choose from. And sometimes there's gonna be a loop that you only like one half of and you don't like the other half. For example, here we've got a clicking sound that's not really that pleasant. So how to fix that? Go to the envelopes section, select the gain by clicking on it, and now you can turn down the volume of the sections that you don't want. So there you go, we just got rid of that click. This is also useful if you want to have a question and answer going on between two different loops. For example, mute the first half of one and mute the second half of the other, so they don't clash with each other. Did that rhyme? Oh, and by the way, if you like my way of teaching, feel free to book a one-on-one consultation call with me if you want some more tailored advice. The link to that is going to be in the video description. Now, before I show you some different ways to mess around with this blob of sound, I should probably show you how I made the bass lines from earlier. It's actually really simple. Let's just take one of the blob slices from earlier, and I'm gonna choose this one because it's already bass heavy. So what I do here is I basically pitch it down an octave, or sometimes I pitch it down 2 octaves. Now I just cut the highs from here, so it's only the lows. And then I like to beef it up with an OTT. I'm using the OTT from Xfer, which is a free plugin, and I like to turn the downward knob all the way down so that we get the most bass possible. Just make sure to put the OTT before the filter. Now let me add a kick to put this into context. Just gonna sidechain this bass to the kick. Now, sometimes it's gonna be too busy in the stereo field though, because usually you don't want to have too much stereo in the bass. It's about phasing issues, look it up. But you can fix that if you use an EQ and turn it to the mono stereo mode. Just go to the stereo and cut the lows from it. And there you go, you just made a bass line. Nice! I hope I just blew your mind, but there's more. You know, this realistically took like a couple of minutes, but I promised you it would take a couple of seconds. So I have a solution to that as well. So far, we've been sculpting the blob like, I don't know, like the hippies that, you know, sculpt the vases and stuff. But with this other approach that I'm gonna show you right now, we're going to pretty much slice the blob up into small pieces and just shuffle them around. Let me show you. So let's go back to our original blob of sound. Right now, this small snippet is selected. So let's just select everything by pressing Ctrl A, and now we can press Ctrl L to loop all of it. And now, if we right-click the audio file itself, we can select this option right here, Slice to New MIDI Track. And now we can choose a slicing mode from here. Right now it tells me that my blob is too long to be able to slice it into bars, so actually let's go back into the blob and select just the last part of it, because I like that one the most. So now if we right click and slice to new MIDI track, we should be able to slice it by bars. Let's press OK. So now we have a drum rack with all the different slices of the blob. You know, this might be overwhelming, like there's literally 117 slices here, but don't worry, we can use a sequencer. I'm going to use the ML185 sequencer as an example. This is a free Max for Live device, by the way, if you didn't know, you can Google it. So let's press the random button on here. Sometimes the whole 8-step sequence might be a bit much, so I often like to turn some of the notes off in the sequencer. Let's press the random button again. And to get some different results, you could either mess around with the offset knob right here, or maybe adjust the coarse tuning of the sequencer itself. Also, if you turn up the release here, it starts to get a little crazy. That's kind of cool. So now if you like this pattern that you've randomized, you can record it into a MIDI track so that it doesn't get lost. Now you can drag this clip here and turn off the sequencer. And there you go! That's a pretty crazy technique, isn't it? And if you've gotten this far into the video, it must mean you like generating musical ideas instantly, which is perfect because I've actually invented an Ableton effect track which lets you turn literal farts into full-blown sequences in a matter of literal seconds. And if you want to learn more about that, I talk about it in this video. Click here right now to watch it, and I'll see you there. Cheers.